Welcome to Data, Evidence, and Persuasion video PowerPoint. This video PowerPoint presents the basic strategies for persuasion. You can use these strategies when persuading and influencing those on the job. So what is persuasion? Persuasion essentially is a mind game, right? You have a request or a proposal. You want someone to buy your product, your service, or your idea. So if you have authority over those individuals, you can get compliance, behavior change that's unsustainable. But to truly persuade, you have to engage belief change, which is sustainable. And to do this, you have to cause cognitive dissonance. So in other words, you have to get people to change the way they think in order to think the way that you think. People strive to have consistency in their attitudes, beliefs, and ideas. When there isn't consistency, the mental tension from conflicting ideas or attitudes or belief is what we call cognitive dissonance. So here's an example of one study that demonstrates cognitive dissonance. So Dan and Chip Heath in their book Switch talk about a study with milk in West Virginia. So many Americans drink milk, whole milk, which is incredibly fattening and probably not so great for you, clogging your arteries and stuff like that. So the goal of this study was to get people to drink low-fat milk, 1%, 2% skim milk, rather than whole milk, so that they wouldn't have as many health problems. So after studying the habits of the people who are drinking whole milk, researchers determined that if low-fat milk was in the fridge, people would drink it. So the trick would be getting people to buy the low-fat milk rather than the whole milk, because then they would change their drinking habits. But the question is, how do you get it in the fridge? How do you change people's buying habits in the grocery store? They tried this in a control area in West Virginia, and they ran punchy ads that compared like a whole glass of milk to the fat in 5 strips of bacon. At a press conference, they had a glob of gray fat that equaled the amount of fat in a gallon of whole milk. There was a recent New York ad campaign that they ran in the subways that compared soda to fat in similar ways. Pretty effective, kind of gross. But during this controlled campaign, 1% milk moved from 18% market share in the local grocery to 41%. 6 months later, it was holding at 35%. Habits have changed. People were persuaded, their ideas were influenced. The campaign had somehow caused cognitive dissonance, doing milk something that's really good for you and lots of gross, greasy fat, something that most of us recognize as not so good for us. So how do you do that in your persuasive strategies? How do you cause cognitive dissonance so that people start to change their ideas or at least begin to listen to yours? You can push ideas all you want, but it really helps if you have some leverage. So let's look at Howard Gardner's 7 levers. Real-world events, reason, research, resonance, redescription, resources and rewards, and resistance. These are the levers that you can use to help start to cause cognitive dissonance. So you take the data that you've analyzed and you see how they fit, categorize them according to these different levers. So if you have a story, for example, that would fit into real-world events, a case study, for example. Redescription, you might be able to pull a chart or a graph. Resonance, you have a value-based argument that might appeal to your audience. These are the levers. And once you've taken your data and you identify which lever they are, then you can figure out how to put them into your persuasive message. One of the most common structures for persuasive or sales messages is AIDA, A-I-D-A, and that structure can be a lot of fun for you because it's useful. It's alignment, information, direct benefit, and action. And so alignment shows up right at the beginning, where you align with the values of the reader. Now the example that you see here isn't necessarily persuasive measures. I'm just showing you where you set up your alignment. Then you provide information that's of interest that might help persuade or convince, some of those levers that will help cause cognitive dissonance. Next, you have direct benefit. What are some of the resources and rewards, the WIFI for your audience, and finally, your call to action. Now, if you're using this AIDA structure, you can figure out which levers fit better in which part of your message by thinking about it in terms of alignment, resonance, and rewards. We're looking at value alignment, what's the benefit for the audience, information, research, reason, and redescription, direct benefits, rewards, resistance or countering the rebuttal, and then redescription again. Your action, that's giving your audience a very clear direction. So let's turn to the Heath brothers again and their switch. A simple way to think about persuasion is that 1, you have to direct the writer. Give them a clear call to action and a whiffy. 2, you need to motivate the elephant. You need to engage and motivate others to join you. So this is where you use your levers and you show them the benefit. Again, you've got your whiffy. You're always whiffying when you're persuading. And finally, you want to shape the path. Create an easy environment for them to do what you want. In your written documents, or presentation, or interpersonal, be clear and make people want to agree with you. So there it is. Take your data, use levers to turn it into evidence that you can use as a way to cause cognitive dissonance and persuade, causing belief change rather than just compliance.